In the modern gaming industry, a hit is a mathematical equation. It requires a team of 300 people, a budget of $100 million, a marketing campaign that blankets the globe, and usually a board of directors demanding microtransactions. But in 2011, in a small apartment in Washington state, one man decided to break that equation. He had no budget. He had no team. He had no experience. He was a 24-year-old computer science graduate who couldn't get a job. He sat down at his desk with a simple goal: to clone his favorite childhood game, Harvest Moon, to practice his coding skills. He thought it would take 6 months. It didn't take 6 months. It took 4.5 years. 4.5 years of isolation, of working 10 hours a day, 7 days a week, of redrawing every single pixel 3 times, of composing every note of music, of writing every line of dialogue. He hid his work from the world. He lived off his girlfriend's paycheck. He faced the crushing pressure that he was wasting his life on a pipe dream. When he finally emerged from that room in 2016, he didn't just release a game, he released a cultural phenomenon. Today, Stardew Valley has sold over 30 million copies. It is cited as one of the greatest games ever made. This is the story of Eric Barone. It is a story about perfectionism, about the fine line between dedication and madness, and how one man armed with nothing but C# code and an obsession outclassed the entire AAA industry. The year is 2011. The gaming landscape is changing. Skyrim is about to launch. Minecraft is taking over the world. Eric Barone graduates from the University of Washington, Tacoma with a degree in computer science. He does what every graduate does. He applies for jobs, but the interviews go badly. He feels unprepared. The corporate programming test feels sterile and intimidating. He is rejected again and again. Eric found himself at a crossroads. He could study for IT certifications to get a boring office job, or he could try to build something to put on his resume. He looked back at the games he loved as a child, specifically Harvest Moon. He felt the series had lost its way. The modern versions were clunky, slow, and lacked the soul of the originals. He thought, I can do better. I'll make a small fan clone, release it on Xbox Live indie games, and use it to get a job. He called it Sprout Valley at first. He made a critical decision that would define the next half-decade of his life. He decided not to use a game engine. No Unity, no Unreal, no Godot. He wanted to understand the machine. He wrote the entire game in C++, using the Microsoft XNA framework. This means he wasn't just building a house, he was making the bricks. He had to write the code that drew the images to the screen. He had to write the code that played the sounds. He had to write the physics, the lighting, the text parsing. But code was only 20% of the problem. A video game needs art. It needs music. It needs sound effects. It needs writing. Usually these are 4 different careers. Eric had no training in art. He had played in some bands, but he had never composed a soundtrack. He decided to do it all. This was not arrogance, it was necessity. He didn't know anyone else who would work for free. He set a schedule. He would treat it like a job. Wake up, make coffee, sit at the computer, work until sleep, repeat. He told his friends and family it will be done in 6 months. But as he worked, the scope began to creep. I need fishing, he thought, and I need a mining dungeon. I need relationships with the villagers. The 6-month deadline passed, then a year. The game was nowhere near finished, and the doubt began to set in. There's a trap in solo development called the placeholder trap. You draw a bad-looking tree just to test the code, promising yourself you'll fix it later. Eric Barone hated placeholders. He wanted everything to look final, but because his skills were improving every day, the final art he drew on Monday looked terrible by Friday. He redrew the character portraits, not once, not twice, but 10 times. He rewrote the dialogue constantly. He would spend a week programming a harvesting mechanic, play it, decide it felt off, and scrap the entire week's work. This is where the project should have died. Most indie games die here. The developer gets stuck in a loop of polishing the first level forever, never finishing the game. But Eric had a secret weapon, his obsession with game feel. He didn't just want the game to function, he wanted it to feel like a warm blanket. He composed over 70 distinct tracks of music. He didn't just use stock sound effects. He recorded noises in his apartment, When you water crops in Stardew Valley, that sound is specific. It's satisfying. He spent days just tuning the timing of the fishing minigame bar. He was becoming a Renaissance man by force. To make the game he wanted, he had to become a professional pixel artist. So he practiced until he was one. He had to become a writer. So he wrote thousands of lines of backstory for characters like Shane, the depressed alcoholic, or Pam, the struggling bus driver. He poured his own feelings of isolation and hope into these characters. But while the digital world was becoming rich and vibrant, his real world was shrinking. By 2013, Eric had been working for 2 years. He had earned $0. He was living with his girlfriend, Amber Hageman. She was a student, and then she was working to support both of them. They lived in a small shared house with roommates to keep rent cheap. The social pressure was immense. Imagine going to a family gathering. People ask, "What do you do?" You say, "I'm making a video game." They ask, "Oh, for who?" "Just me." "How much money have you made?" "Nothing." "How long have you been doing it?" 3 years. You can see the look in their eyes. They think you are unemployed. They think you are a dreamer who refuses to grow up. To help with bills, Eric took a part-time job as an usher at the Paramount Theater in Seattle. He would stand there, tearing tickets, watching people have fun, while his mind was running code. He felt like a failure. He later admitted that he felt a tremendous guilt. He felt like a burden on Amber. He would ask her, "Do you think I should quit? Should I just get a normal job?" And every time Amber said no. She believed in him. She saw the game. She knew it was special. Without Amber Hageman, Stardew Valley would not exist. He decided to put the game on Steam Greenlight. This was Valve's old system, where users voted on which games should be sold on Steam. He was terrified. This was the first time the public would see it. The reaction was instant. People loved the screenshots. They loved the music. The Harvest Moon community, starved for a good game, rallied around him. He was greenlit in record time. This caught the attention of Finn Bryce, the CEO of Chucklefish, a publisher in London. Finn approached Eric. He didn't try to take over development. He simply said, "We'll handle the website, the wiki, and the legal stuff. You just finish the game." It was the validation Eric needed. He wasn't crazy. Professionals saw the potential. The finish line was in sight, but the final year was the hardest. This was the crunch of one. In a big studio, crunch means the managers force you to stay late. For Eric, the pressure came from within. He had announced a release window. The internet was waiting. He began working 12, 14 hours a day. He stopped exercising. He barely ate. He slumped over his desk, typing code with a hunched back. He had to ensure the game didn't crash. A crash in a 40-hour RPG is fatal. If a player loses their save file, they leave a negative review and never come back. He played his own game for thousands of hours trying to break it. He found bugs in the XNA framework itself and had to code workarounds. He was the lead tester, the lead engineer, and the lead artist all at once. He started streaming development on Twitch to build a community. He would code live. He would show off new features. He was transparent. He answered questions. He wasn't a faceless corporation. He was ConcernedApe, a guy who just wanted to make a good game. This built a level of trust that no marketing budget could buy. The audience saw the struggle. They saw the passion. They were rooting for him to win. February 26, 2016, launch day. Eric sat in his apartment. His finger hovered over the release button on Steam. He felt sick. He thought, what if it crashes for everyone? What if it's a disaster? He pressed the button. He went to the bathroom to splash water on his face. When he came back, the sales counter was spinning. It was the #1 selling game on Steam immediately. Within 2 weeks, it sold 500,000 copies. Eric Barone, the unemployed usher, was suddenly a multimillionaire. But he didn't pop champagne. He didn't go on vacation. He panicked. With 500,000 players, obscure bugs started appearing. Things Eric could never have tested for. Most developers would release a patch a week later. Eric stayed awake for days. He sat on Reddit and Twitter. If a player said, "My save file is corrupt," Eric would reply, "Email it to me." He would open their save file in a hex editor, manually fix the corrupted data, and email it back to them. Personally, he fixed hundreds of save files by hand. The gaming world had never seen this. Here was the creator of the biggest game of the year, doing tech support for individual fans at 3 o'clock a.m. This cemented his legacy. He wasn't just a good developer, he was a good person. He cared. After the launch, Eric could have retired. He had enough money for 10 lifetimes, but he had made a promise during the Greenlight campaign. Multiplayer. He didn't know how hard it would be. Stardew Valley was written as a single-player game. Every line of code assumed there was only one player. To add multiplayer, he had to rewrite almost the entire engine. He spent another 2 years working on the game. He eventually brought in a small team from Chucklefish to help with the netcode and console ports, because the task was too big for one human. But he kept creating content. Update 1.1, Update 1.2, Update 1.5. Massive updates, new islands, new characters, new endings. In any other game, Update 1.5 would be a $20 DLC called the Ginger Island Expansion. Eric gave it all away for free. He refused to charge for updates. He refused to add microtransactions. He said, "I want the game to be complete. I want players to feel respected." Even in 2024, 8 years after release, he released Update 1.6, another massive free expansion. Why? Because he loves the game. It is his life's work. The legacy of Stardew Valley is undeniable. It revived the farming sim genre. It proved that 2D pixel art is timeless. It inspired a generation of indie developers to learn to code. It showed that you don't need a predatory monetization scheme to make money. You just need to make something good. Eric is now working on his next game, Haunted Chocolatier. He is working solo again. He has millions of dollars, he could hire a team of 50. But he chooses to sit in his room, drawing pixels, writing code, and composing music. Because for Eric Barone, it was never about the money. It was about the act of creation. It was about proving to himself that he could do it. The man who spent 4.5 years in silence, wondering if he was a failure, has connected millions of people around the world. He built a valley where we can all escape, where the work is hard but the harvest is sweet. Eric Barone's story destroys the excuse that I don't have the resources. He didn't have resources. He had time, and he had will. If Stardew Valley has helped you through a tough time, or if you've sunk hundreds of hours into your farm, tell me your story in the comments. Who did you marry? Leah? Sebastian? Let me know. We are chronicling the most incredible stories in gaming history, from the solo devs to the studio disasters. Click that subscribe button and hit the bell. You don't want to miss our next documentary on the rise and fall of Blizzard Entertainment. Thank you for watching. And remember, Grandpa is proud of you.